Hi everyone, welcome to our next episode of Indus Seminar. And this time we have a slightly different theme, which is basically towards the building or the skill sets, which is rather different from the technical expertise that we actually think of acquiring. And let me invite today's speaker, that is Dr. Ritesh Patel. And he is a research scientist at Southwest Research Institute, Boulder, that is Surrey, Boulder. And actually, he has done his Bachelor's of Engineering. And after that, he did his MTech and PhD from Indian Institute of Astrophysics, IIA. And he also stayed for some duration at Aries as well, where he also worked after his post-thesis period. He has a long list of publications, and mainly he has the expertise in the polarization of solar corona, as well as the CME detection. And he also holds many papers and expertise in the magnetic reconnection as well. And by now, he has already had around 200 citations. And today, he will be giving us some overview of his expertise. He has also got some very nice grant proposals, which we'll be talking about. And today, he will be mainly enlightening us about building a competitive funding application in heliophysics research with the focus on NASA roses. So I welcome you, Dr. Ritesh Patel. So floor is yours. So it's up to you now.
Thank you, Dr. Pratik Mayank, for such a nice introduction. So as Pratik mentioned that we are not only focusing on other aspects of academia, but also improving some skill set. And though I am too young to talk about this topic, but we planned this as like a series of seminars to get idea about the different types of proposals, because today what I am focusing is giving an overview idea, but primarily there is an opportunity called NASA Roses, but that's mainly for the funding in US. But the ideas that you will get here today is applicable to any stage, like applying for postdoc applications and some other fellowships that's about to become like Newton and Marie Curie in Europe. So these ideas will help you develop such kind of attitude towards those sorts of funding opportunities. Uh, though I would say that a disclaimer in beginning itself that I wasn't even prepared to do this until a day before yesterday when Dr. Mayank showed up and I realized that I have to give a seminar today. So the slides will be as new to you as to me. So fingers crossed. I will try to do minimum justice to this. Uh, as you all are in a PhD, let me start giving you something that we all can relate to. The journey hasn't been so smooth as we had thought, like, okay, we go do research and get doctors in front of our name, but things happen. Good things, bad things, every kind of things. So this is relatable. When we talk about getting funding, it's broadly it can be classified something like even in PhD, because those people who are in Europe, I know some who has to write even proposal to obtain a PhD, to get into a PhD. And the rest you have about some ideas, like for postdoc positions in the future after PhD, we do have to write proposals at some stage to propose a mission like Aditya or LIGO or something else. There's this proposal stages there and many more, like even in US, like to do research in a particular, say, theoretical or observational or any kind of research. This funding is required, and for that you need to have a good proposal and definitely travel. Many of you may have already taken, say, DST sub or other kind of travel support. So when you have to write a proposal, what do? You go to Google, not the office though, and get some idea about how to make a proposal. It can be anything, even related to this particular moment. So when you do so search for proposals, I was also doing something while making this presentation yesterday, and I found a lot of contents online. And there are many YouTube videos talking about all these stuff. But the thing is, like every other department, like whether it's biology or chemistry or physics, like there are many different funding agencies, and they have particular format or a particular requirement. But some of the things are common among all these agencies that make into a proposal. Like, let me go through this one. Is the basic that I will take forward. But you see that the title, introduction, literature, you can find these uh, key points in all these different methodologies that has been put all over the internet. So let's move forward with this small or the simplest structure without any too much of complication. So the title of your proposal is a very important thing. It cannot be just like anything like you want to do something. It cannot be very broad. So the title should be brief, focused, and it should be at the same time explanatory. Like the person who is reading or reviewing your proposal should be able to get the keywords in that title, so he can or she can evaluate that this proposal talks about one particular aspect and what has to be done. So the key words and has to be very important uh, thing that you must be taking into account. It may so happen that you will write a proposal fully and then go back to the title to get an idea about what are the key aspects that you are going to do in this proposal, and what things will be tackled. Try to remove as many as unnecessary words. Even in like our PhD thesis title, it has to be very accurate. Like I know in my PhD committee, I was recommended to emphasize on certain words that were not present earlier. So that's the importance of choosing your words wisely. So here I am putting two examples. Just read it carefully and let me know which proposal according to you is better. I would ask Randeep to put a poll request of one, two, or both quickly, and you can poll your votes so that we can have an idea about what do you think is a good title. So this is just a vague one talking about magnetic reconnection. It doesn't have to do anything with say any particular, say just one particular area, but just to give you an idea. Uh, Randeep, did you open the polling?
Yeah, just a minute.
Okay, yeah. So the don't think about the length of the titles. Both the titles are lengthy for now, just for sake of an example. But in principle, we try to get like say one line or something like that. And as I can see that people who may have, yeah, okay, that's going pretty well. That I think some of the expert people have already put in the right direction. I won't say that either of the title is wrong, but the title should be such that it brings out what are the key features that you want to do and where and how. And let's end the poll. And I can see that about 90% of the people have voted for the second option. And yes, as you can see that this is more uh, oops, why is it not stopping? Okay, this is more concise, telling anyone that this is an investigation of a reconnection phenomenon all the way from photosphere to chromosphere, corona. But if you see the first title, it vaguely talks about different regions of the solar atmosphere. It's not specifying that what all regions will be tackled, like whether it's say sunspot or corona or chromosphere, like different layers or at just some different scale features. And in the second title, you can see the tools that will be used, like observation and modeling. But here it just says that connection to the solar phenomena. So this kind of some small things make a difference. it need not to be have this kind of format, but it can be like characterizing multi-scale magnetic reconnection in solar corona, something like that. But don't try to be too vague, too unnecessary words, and just be a very broad title that it's all over the place. So that's like kind of a bad impression, right? Reading the very first line of your proposal itself. Oops. Yeah. Talking about abstract or summary, so this may not be the same abstract or summary as we are used to for papers. So paper writing, all of you have mastered, I know, but proposal writing takes it to a different layer. It's just a there is a like a thin line that when you have to evolve from writing a good paper to a good proposal. In paper you can explain say 10 things, you can write 10 different analysis in just one paper, but in proposal you have to be very focused. As I mentioned in the title, it has to be very specific that this is the one problem that you would like to address. And in order to do so, uh, it is always recommended that if you have a bigger aim, like the reconnection I talked in the previous example, try to narrow it down into different objectives, like break into different objectives. Generally these proposals are written for funding, whether in a postdoc or any research, like 2 to 3 years at least. Then you have to break it down such that it's feasible in that given timeline, and you can have a different year dedicated to that specific objective. And I happen to get to this particular thing like smart objectives. That's what is defined in a research proposal. Like it has to be specific, it has to be measurable and achievable. Like in the given timeline, it can be doable. It's not that you say that you will find the edge of the universe and you cannot see based on the current knowledge that we have. Should be relevant to whatever the theme of that particular funding opportunity comes. And the time plays a very key role in this. Like all these things are interconnected, that these objectives should be achievable in a given amount of time with the given amount of resources and funding. It should not be any generic thing like you can find the edge of the universe. And at the same time, it should be compelling. It need not to be like a groundbreaking thing at once, but it can be like a step forward in our continuation of the current knowledge that we have. And we'll be talking a bit more on this in upcoming slides, that what people have some misconceptions at the moment in doing research. A background survey or the introduction or science overview, that's you have been writing for paper, but in case of proposal there are many things that has to be taken into account. Like in paper you can give an idea, say if you are talking about CME, very first observation of CME from eclipse time to even OSO, or even the latest one, you can give the complete history. But when you have to write an introduction for a proposal, you have to position it in such a way that that particular topic lies within like have a big context in the broader literature. And you have to emphasize that why this particular research topic, why this particular study is of great importance. For this, as in the paper literature survey, we go through different papers or the studies or the methods that have been used to progress or to answer a specific question. And here we have to build in such a way that few in a first paragraph or two, the complete background history about what has been done or what are these features is covered, and then subsequently followed by the gaps, what methods have been applied to it. So there is a beautiful inverted pyramid structure on how to put a literature survey in a proposal, starting with the two things that are background and why it is important, and then the things that has been done so far and what is the current belief, and the questions that are still persisting in that field, like coronal heating or solar wind acceleration, and how your three objectives are going to address or serve as a way forward in this particular direction. So these are the main things that you have to bring about And depending on the length of the pages permitted by the funding agency for the proposal, you have to increase or decrease the length of this particular section to provide a good background to any lame reader that this particular problem is important, and the even after years of research in this particular field, we still have these unanswered questions that we would like to answer in our particular research. And when we talk about methodology, so these are the sections that I'm going one by one. So these are contents of every proposal in one form or the other. So it may not follow the same sequence, and it may vary little bit between different stages like PhD or postdoc, but you may need to take into account some of these points that may be helpful for you in the future. So to do this methodology section, it's always good to let the reviewer or the reader know that you have a plan to approach to this problem. For this, you can either break down the complete methodology section in phases. As I was mentioning in the beginning, that it's not just 1 year process, but you can have, say, 2 or 3 years of funding. So it's always beneficial if you can justify that in, say, first year, you are going to use these methodologies on this particular data set, and then building on this, you are going to move forward in second year and so on. So building your proposal in the phases provides the reviewer an idea that you have some timeline in the mind at and specific small objectives that you would like to attain during the course of your funding duration. And at the same time, you have to be just you have to justify that why that particular method you are using is beneficial, because uh, the kind of research or the modeling or simulation that we are doing at the moment, there can be n number of ways to do it, but just choosing one and specifying it. Okay, I am using, say, DM method by Mark Cheng. So why Mark Cheng? Why not Contar and any other method? So that's the kind of thing. Or even if you just specify that out of all these, this particular one is the one that I am going to use, also plays a major role, because recently some of the reviews came to us, uh, and the comments were like, you have mentioned 3 or 4 different methods, you yourself are not sure which method you are going to use. So reviewers appreciate that if you are certain of using some specific methodology or some specific algorithm for your work, and always specify which data sets to be used, whether it's observational or in modeling, whatever models you would like to use, and try to avoid unnecessary details, that you do not go on repeating the same thing again and again the way I am doing right now, but it's just to mimic the situation of Drishyam movie, that you say the same thing again and again, so you know the story. And try to be pictorial, like try to include figures in your proposal, because one picture is worth 1,000 words. Like you can be able to express multiple things by giving certain examples. And a very important thing, that when we start writing proposals, we think that if our proposal has certain weaknesses or certain challenges in a particular method, that will create a negative point for our proposal. But that is not the case. Reviewers always appreciate if we know that what are the challenges we are going to face, what are the limitations of this particular research, and if we have a strategy to say include an error like within this particular range, it will be this results are valid. So those things are very useful to mention somewhere in the proposal, that to create a good impression, rather than thinking that it will create a weakness for your proposal. But not having a weakness is actually a weakness that ultimately you will see in your review report if you receive. And uh, things just whatever I just talked about. So always mention all the tools and applications that you will be using, and try to avoid redundancy. And talking about the implication and contribution, so there is always some section or some uh, things in the proposal, that there you have to mention that what expected outcomes you would get from after this study. These can be like how these will advance the knowledge and how it will fit in the broader heliophysics goal, specifically in big funding agencies like NASA and NSF. These are you have to fit that proposal in a particular key points that is the theme of that particular year. And if you have some preliminary analysis, or you get an idea based on, say, very, say, vaguely waving hands that this will, say, improve the accuracy by n number of percent. So it's good to go by certain things, but try to avoid vague claims. Always be realistic, because in any proposal, please do not go with that fact or claiming that this particular research is groundbreaking and I will change the history by doing this research, because things do not work that way. So always be realistic. And one way of putting outcomes in most of the proposals is like, if you expect a research publication or some tools that are developed that will be deployed in some particular field, like a space weather, for example. Like if you are developing a particular CME model or a space weather model, so that kind of application are the expected outcomes that you need to highlight. In some cases also, that you will have to provide the data dissemination policies, like it will be open source and so on and so forth. And in some case it can be an outreach activity, like for the Citizen Kate program during the eclipse. The outreach was one of the major science goals, along with acquiring data to make the normal people aware about the phenomena that was happening. So all these can be like the different phases of the outcome. I may not have covered everything, but it cannot be just like a specific, say, number that you need to put, but it can be on any form. And let's talk about more when we are in this topic of writing, that what reviewers look for. Till now, I have been talking about what we need to put in the proposals. But what from the perspective of reviewers, because reviewers are also some researcher like us, so there are often panels of a few scientists who are going to evaluate your proposal and try to look for some of the questions, like I have put on here, that how the objectives are related to the posed question or the broader aim or the theme that they have been exploring, how your the proposal that you have put aligns well with the, say, heliophysics goal of that particular year or that institute that's providing um, funding. And the very important part is, if you are m- uh, claiming to do certain things, is it feasible to be done or demonstrated? Is it really doable? Like you say, you are going to apply some stochastic methods in, say, uh, machine learning algorithm and do some kind of forecasting, but is it feasible to do that kind of combination? So that's thing is well debated among the reviewers, that okay, this can be done or not. And you have to always try to make your story consistent. Say your objective says coronal heating, and your expected outcome just say that you are going to analyze something on Mars, so that doesn't connect well. So you have to be consistent, that whatever objectives you are proposing and your outcomes align well. And if you have mentioned a given timeline, like say in 3 years, I am going to do this kind of research. So it shouldn't be too much of a thing that you would put in the proposal, that I am going to publish, say, 7 papers in 3 years. Is that possible? Given first author, maybe not, unless you go for some just random journals. But that kind of feasibility is also given importance when the proposals are addressed, that that amount of work, is it possible to do in, say, n years or something like that. And and always the proposal is not just one person, but it is often a team of people, like who are submitting the proposal, and it's if the first few points are satisfied, then it goes to the next level where they try to see your experience, your team's experience, and the objectives. Can they be met with the given expertise or not? And at the last, but this can be a very important point that should come in the beginning, that in most of the proposals, they have a certain format and a category, and is it compliant in that particular format, like say 10 pages? If it's not, then it's rejected, maybe. I don't know, but the compliance is what we have been hearing a lot after joining here. And moving further, always try to follow the prescribed inclusions, like whatever sections has been mentioned, whatever topics has to be covered, like methodology or background or expected outcomes. Some proposals may not have all the things that I mentioned in the previous slides, or they may have combined a couple of them in just one. Language plays a very important role in the proposal. It should be easily accessible. It means like all the people in the panel may not be the exact expert. They may be in the heliophysics community, but say I am doing space weather, and if someone has is giving me dynamo simulation, I may not be able to judge it. But if I am in the panel, I will have to understand what the authors want to portray. So the language has to be simple, concise, and at the same time try to cover as many aspects. So this is a very tricky thing. In paper you can go on, and भावनाओं में बह जाओ वाली बात होती है, like you can bring your heart out and write a paper. But in writing a proposal, you have to be a little bit tricky. You have to be in say 10 pages or 12 pages or even 2 or 3 pages in some cases, and you have to explain everything, like give a background, what methods you will follow, and what are the expected outcomes. So the language has to be such that it could be understood by the complete community, and at the same time it should bring out the simple technicalities in that particular proposals. Try to keep things in bullets, whether it's in methodology or schedules or outcomes. That way, it helps go point by point and analyze that you have certain specific tasks that you want to show here, and also highlighting the important text, like at the end of say year one I will be doing this, so that can be put in say bold font, so that it emphasizes that this is the overall kind of a summary line or the main takeaway from this particular section or so. So unlike paper, where we generally use bold for revision, but in proposal you can put bold or italic or some kind of emphasize text for these cases. If you have identified some sample test cases or examples that you would like to perform analysis on during the this proposal period, then it's good to place some examples, because often there are some comments that we have received not only from one of the proposals, but I have come to know from my colleagues that reviewers always appreciate that if you have a way to identify, say, if you are saying you are going to analyze 100 CMEs, but how you will go to select those 100 CMEs. So if you have a strategy, you can put that in as a sample case, or if you have an example, an image or particular date. So it's always good to put it in the proposal so that you get an idea that okay, you know what you are doing and what type of events you would like to pursue in the future. It may not be hard and fast, because you are forecasting something for the future. You may not do the exact same CME, but you get an idea that these types of events are to be targeted. And figures play an important role, as I mentioned earlier, that try to include some figures. So this is a kind of a standard that we have been following. It may not be like a hard and fast rule to just include 4 or 5 figure for a 10-page proposal. It can vary, like for a 3-page proposal, we put 2 figures. So it's not like a ratio and proportion, but try to put relevant figures wherever required. And feasibility, as I have been emphasizing, it should not be too much, but also not too little. And based on my recent experience, uh, I received a comment that why for such a small project you need 3 years. So that was a minor one, but it matters. Like you should put sufficient material, but at the same time, it should not exceed that someone will say that it's too much to be done in 3 years. And in the team, you should have well-defined roles. Like for a project, you need not include 10 people, and whether when that particular work can be done by 3 or 4, though there can be some people who are like can be an external collaborator or something, but that roles has to be defined and specified in the documentation well. And at the last, budgeting is actually a thing. And till PhD in India, I think we never uh, paid so much attention or never realized the necessity. But when we move out and have to take into account each and every bits of the proposal, that how we are going to budget. And in budget, it not only includes your cost, like how much you are going to earn based on the work that you are providing, but at the same time, you have to forecast at least the travels, like you are going to attend two travels, one domestic, one international. So that kind of amount has to be included in your budget. So based on some rates, per diem, flight cost, visa, everything, whatever things that you can and think of lodging, renting a car. So that all everything will come in this section. If you know, if you are a lab goer, you may need certain equipments like microscope to look at the sun. No, not funny. You cannot use microscope, but certain equipments, like in our case, we use mostly modeling, and so we need good high-end computers, hard disks. So that kind of things will be covered by equipment and supplies. So those are the things that you need to take into account while making a budget that will be and justify it. It's not like you want a particular, say, high speed gaming laptop for your research there, but gaming laptop for research, it may make sense to someone who is using a high end computer, but you need to justify that why you need that kind of capacity, definitely not to play games. And as I mentioned in the beginning, that we'll be talking about some common myths and misconceptions. So often when we start, we think that we are the beginners, then who is going to fund us? But it's not the case. Your idea matters. Since we are not going into something like a very revolutionary idea in the early stages, if we get it's very good. But with high risk ideas, there are you know, other risks involved. But for broader perspective, like the starting point at which we are right now, if we have certain good ideas and it is feasible to advance certain knowledge, it's always good to pursue writing a proposal for that. It may not change the course of humanity, but it can add very much to our understanding of the heliophysics that we are now. And with the rich data sets and the modeling that we have at the moment, even a simplest idea can turn to be a groundbreaking. Who knows? Always try to prepare very much before, because at the last moment it's always rushed. And looking at the proposal itself, people will know that this is a rushed one. And I know someone who had to write a proposal in 2 days because of some misfortune. But if it's unavoidable, then you have no control in it. But if you know well ahead that this has to be done and you are going to lead it, then please go ahead with the deadline and start preparing beforehand. And like I said earlier, it differs from writing a paper where you can bring your heart out, but it has to be detailed but not redundant. It should be clear and concise, but at the same time, it should not repeat it all over again and again, and unnecessary words and phrases needs to be avoided. And just the important stuff has to be put in the proposal. And people often believe that if a proposal is perfect, it will always get funded, but it's not necessary. Like we have seen many cases where they are getting good grades, good evaluation, but then also it may not get funded, because if you get, say, 8.9 out of 10 and someone is getting 8.95 out of 10, so if you are preparing the merit list, then 8.95, even 0.05 difference may play a role. So it can happen. Like it depends on many factors, the funding of available and so on and so forth, but it's okay. And this is again a repetition of preparation is the key. So I myself is repeating and going against this particular clause. So you can see that I'm also not doing proper justice to it. And writing a perfect proposal. So if you believe that you have written everything perfectly, and we have every method in the world to tackle the research problem that we have, or we can develop it, but that's not the truth. Like every method has certain limitations and assumptions. So it will always be appreciated that if we highlight those kind of limitations and weaknesses in the proposal, and if we have a mitigation strategy, as I was pointing out earlier, that plays a huge role in judging the proposal, that we are aware about our limitations and these results will be valid with certain number of assumptions. So those are some of the strong things that will avoid weaknesses in the proposal. So writing a proposal is like getting through this staircase. It's not a one day process. Like when we started and started writing papers, it felt a kind of a new domain for us, something proposal writing. And I know many of you will be writing proposals soon for postdoc or any other research grant. And this kind of a ladder that we have to uh, step ahead. And overall, if you need to summarize it in just one picture, it's like you have to convince the reviewer that you are the one who is the most suited candidate to tackle this very important question through your proposal. But don't overdo it. Uh, Roses is actually a funding opportunity by NASA, and that's yearly released on Valentine's Day. So if I think let me, oh no, I think I will, let me stop share and reshare something. Uh, Complete screen. Okay. So if you go and search for roses opportunities, NASA roses, and it will land up to this page. So this is mainly for the US based researchers who want to, who has an idea and want to get some funding. So if you are in the US, either as a PhD or postdoc or applying for a postdoc, so you need to have an idea about the funding opportunities like roses, NSF, and this will happen in a few weeks time. So you will, what you will see is you'll have a table about all the fields that NASA supports, and here is our heliophysics field. So take into account what all areas are solicited. Like you can see that there are theory modeling, a simulation, guest investigator is like mainly observational proposal, some space weather research to operation, technology development, flight opportunities. So all these are the different solicitations that are provided every year, and not everything you can see that is available. Like some are not solicited this year, like for Eclipse. But these are the deadlines where you have to submit your proposals. And if you go further in, say, one of these, it will lead up to this page, and eventually you will get this PDF about the details and what all things that you need to include. So the points that I made just now, like what all things has to be included in proposals, are highlighted as you go along. We can have a further deeper discussion on this, specifically with the US people, and that can be another talk of its own. So just wanted to highlight for the people here that in a 2 weeks time, we will be getting to know that what all places we can apply. Coming back to our presentation, and you may be wondering, like you are preparing so much that you're getting an idea, you're getting a timeline, selecting the methodology before even it begins, right? That may be the question of many of you. But it's not the exact thing that you are going to do. It may so happen that you started with an idea and you develop something similar in that particular field, but start having something more compelling ideas once you start getting to work on it. So but the writing a proposal kind of sets a roadmap that you have some plans ahead, and it's not like for 10 years ahead, just 2 or 3 years, so that you the ideas that you have now that you can start working on, and maybe while working on those ideas you get new ideas, and that can be something different. So this is just to take it lightly, that how it's supposed to work, but how it really works. So I think Indus Mata put this in one of our groups. So it's the harsh fact in some cases, but not always, but it works. Enjoy this particular meme. But if you go to PhD Comics, you will find n number of these many funny stuff. In summary, writing a good proposal is like watching a good movie. Your story unfolds as it goes, and those who know, they know the link that I am just showing with these two posters. So, a good proposal has a beginning, a theme, like a second act, and then a conclusion. So from the beginning to the end, it should come a complete circle, and the story should justify it. So last year someone told me that when you're reading a proposal, it should feel like you are going with the flow and not abruptly jumping to some other stuffs, but whatever is started, and by the time you reach the climax, you can connect well with the beginning of that particular movie. So that's how a good proposal works. So if you get a confusion at some stage, just read it and feel that are you seeing the picture, the movie, and it might help. So that's all from my side, and I would like to just throw this beautiful picture. And if you want to know more about this picture, just scan this QR code. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ritesh, for a wonderful presentation. There were a lot of stuff that the audience must have been relating to. So the ground is open for questions. So either you can raise your hand or type in the chat box.
Okay, there is something from Nishtha. I think Nishtha may be away already. Uh, so she has 2 cents. Demonstrating your idea and methodology is very helpful, and always address uncertainties, error, limitations in the data used, and the methodology and the mitigation plan in case something doesn't work. Yes, thank you, Mr. Okay, so Nil points out research interest statement is similar to research proposal or different. So research statement is a different category of writing about yourself, what you are doing, and what your plans to do ahead in the future. So proposal is like a detailed work specific to a particular, say, field or a question, but research statement, you also give about what you have done so far, and then based on, say, the position, you get an idea that these are the topics that you are interested to work in with particular faculty over there. And research statement can be just 1 or 2 pages, and not like proposal where you have to be detailed. So we have our panelists.
Yeah, so we we can wait for a couple of questions. In the meantime, you are raising your hand or typing. We are also thinking to have a panel discussion in which I would like to invite Dr. Ranadeep, who is in Helsinki doing his research, and also Dr. Vibhuti. I hope he's here. Uh,
Dr. Srivastav has raised his hand.
yeah, yes, Arpit. Uh,
Yeah. Hope I am audible.
yes, yes.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask whether how good or bad it is to have some portion in your proposal for developing a methodology, a new methodology, which will be helpful for your completing your objective. How much portion it should be, or it can be, how bad or good it should be. I mean, I just wanted to know that.
Yeah, that's a good question. And there are two aspects to it. So let me go if has to be developed from scratch. So there are certain opportunities like the roses that I was showing and within NSF as well. There can be proposals that are solely dedicated to developing a new method. In that, though, you will have to give some background about some existing one because say a Hoff transform, for example, we know it has been used in image processing, and if we are importing it to solar physics, so that is the basis we develop. But if it cannot be like anything very out of the blue, there like if you are developing something, there has to be some literature to it. So there can be a separate proposal for that. And if it is a part of, say, very big proposal, that can also be done to develop new methods, but it can't be a standalone thing in there. So based on my experience, we have seen some proposals where we have based developing some new methods for some automation, but it is based on something existing and we are improving on it and adding some more tools to it. So that kind of thing can be done in a big proposal, which is say data analysis or new modeling. But if you want to develop a new method altogether, so there are separate those kind of solicitation to it.
Yeah, I will add into it that when you are developing a new method, first thing is that you have to convince the reviewer it's feasible. So
Yes.
that should be your point. So when you say, okay, I'm going to develop some method, which is completely, as Ritesh mentioned, it's out of the blue. So it's not you are convinced that this method will work. So you have to convince the reviewer, think it point of view of like you are not expert, and from others' point of view that it will work. But even if you are not sure, for example, in Roses, there is a solicitation called HITS, which is kind of high risk, high gain kind of proposal. So if you are not sure, you can submit that is a short proposal in HITS and then demonstrate that yes, it is possible. And then later on, you can submit a big proposal based on the proposal that you submitted in HITS. So these kind of things, and depending on how risky your method is, it will go from one proposal to another proposal.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great. So we can maybe have a short panel discussion. Yeah. So one difficulty that I always face while writing proposal is that you want to write a lot of thing and you have a very limited space. So brevity is kind of thing which is very much required in your proposal. Uh, Either we can go with pictures, but you can put limited pictures even in the background and all those things. There is some kind of word limitation in the introduction as well. So I always face a very huge problem in making all those things very concise. So how you guys deal with this in your proposals?
So yeah, one thing that what I follow, sometimes like they have this kind of font sizes, they try to limit it for the tables. It's a bit shorter. Like so let's say if I talking about the risk and mitigation plan, so sometimes I, without describing and discussing through like over one page, I try to use a table for that. So like let's say if you have one column for what are the challenges, then what are the risk level. So you have to mention that whether it is a like a high risk or it is medium risk or it's a low level. So that kind of level you can mention, or you can use some color bars to show that the high risk for let's say high is for red and medium is for
Mm,
different color
mm,
bars.
mm,
Another column is, let's say, so why this is challenging, and third column is is your mitigation plan. Let's say if there is some if your proposal is based on some new missions, let's say punch or something. Let's say you don't get that mission successful, but still you can do your work based on some existing data or something, like just for one example. But yeah, so just so using some table format, you can reduce some spaces in your proposal. Yeah, maybe others can say
Mm.
if
Yeah.
they use some other things.
Yeah, also it happens like we when we read it again and again. So as a first writer, we may have repeated something. So it's
Right.
always
Mm.
to talk to more people. Say even your co-eyes can help. It's if you get a third perspective, it can help reduce certain things that we have been putting repeatedly or putting in some other section and then repeating again. So that helps.
Yeah, and
Mm.
I also feel like when you write a section, when you write it the very first time, you may not be within the limit that you wanted. So
Mm.
it's like it's a skill that, so imagine like you are giving a ASI talk of your thesis in 12 minutes, right?
Mm.
So you are presenting entire thesis, the work that you have done over the years in a 12 minute plus 3 minute question. So that's a skill. And similarly, and you may have presented the same, like you have multiple works, you have presented the same one of the work in 30 minutes. It's like you are
Yeah.
compressing everything, but you want
Yeah.
others to understand as well.
Mm.
So when you like when I do, I write it like always write it over. Okay, I want to write my introduction of like 1 page or maybe like 75% of a page, but I will write it 2 page sometime. And then I will read it again. And that's why Ritesh was saying if you want to do it over the night, it will not work. So
Mm.
you read it multiple times, and then you will realize that okay, you are repeating some of the things, and you are like, okay, you have written a paragraph which can be actually summarized and make it more concise in 2 sentences. And then once you are happy, you can let colleagues read about it, because
Yes.
sometimes you are so much into it, your brain is not even thinking beyond that limit. So
Mm.
you can share with your, so that you will get another pairs of eyes, and they will look into it, and you will get feedback. And by that, and they may also have a better way of saying same thing, right? So it's a teamwork. It's not also a one
Yes.
people is doing everything. It's a
Yeah.
teamwork as
Yeah.
well. But if it is a postdoc proposal, I can understand that, like where you are only one most of the time, then it's
Yeah.
definitely you have to do your best, and you read it multiple times. And that's why time is important. Even if I write a proposal once, I submit it. If I read it again, I will find out a way to improve it.
And heading
Yep.
further, nowadays there are good tools that can help you with
Yeah. Yes. True. Yeah.
Yeah, and also
And
one
this. Yeah.
one
Yeah.
thing maybe
Yes.
like each proposal has their unique page limits. So if say, as Ritesh was mentioning that it's a 10-page proposal, so you have to chalk out that how much percentage of that you would like to use at your introduction, then you're describing your objectives, and then the implementation part where the methods
Yes.
and all these things come. And reviewer will expect that you should be very detailed in your method part, not
Mm.
a very big literature review at the
Yes.
introduction part. So maybe you can like take like 20% is your introduction, and then 20% or like 10% is your building up the methodology, objectives, and like aims, and then mostly like 60 to 70% you should keep your like implementation part, where you show the methods, risk and mitigation plan, and the timeline of your like different work packages that you used in your methods. So like this way. So if you can chalk out this part, then maybe that could save you like how much space you have to be like restricted within the introduction part, so that
Yeah.
you don't go further from that.
Yes.
No, exactly, Randeep, that what you mentioned is I have received like from the people who has been in review panel, they always say that people are overwriting introduction and
Mm.
underwriting the methodology part. For the proposal, how you are going to achieve that, that is the most important. So exactly, that's the point. So you can limit, and there is no point of putting a lot of literature survey. So optimization that Ritesh was mentioning again, not too little, not too much.
we have a question in the chat from Kuber for theoretical research. So do you mean for heliophysics theoretical or like a black hole kind of theoretical? Okay, others can, as Pratik pointed out, can ask questions because many of you may be applying for postdocs. So we can try to answer the best
Yes.
of our abilities.
And if you add or want to add any comment or participate in the discussion, please unmute yourself or raise hand. So, sir, for the data analysis.
So the data analysis, say if you are applying a research proposal, it depends on where you are. So in US, all the solicitation that I showed, the NASA one, there are different heliophysics data analysis solicitations. In Europe, the case is different. They have a European Research Council where you write the proposal. So it can be theoretical, it can be data analysis, observational instrumentation. So there are different categories to it, and based on your interest, you can definitely apply to that particular specific one. Like if you are in India, I know India, we haven't got that kind of diversification specific to particular field, because the culture in India is like you have a funding by say some faculty, personal funding, they can advertise themselves, or institute based funding, and it may so happen that you have to search for that specific faculty who works on that particular topic. So it depends on where you are actually.
Yes, and for that, you must also follow the newsletter. We try to put all the latest updates on the funding things as well. So if you follow that, and if something new is coming, so you will be aware of that specific things as well. So additionally, one thing that I was thinking and I got reminded after the Ranadev's suggestion is the use of color. The color coding across your whole proposal uh, can enhance the whole quality of the proposal, highlighting the main things as well as some different kind of sections as well. So what I personally do is that whatever the title is of the section, I put in a different color so that the title is kind of very much visible. You know what is the structure of full paper. And again, I sometimes put a box. Like let's say that you are writing an introduction, or after that introduction, you are stating the gap. So I put it in a box, colored box, which is not very bright, but slightly of a different shade. That also provides the reviewer, if he doesn't want to read the full paper, he can just read that box, because that box is the crest of that paper. So what do you think? How important is the use of color, the creative use of color in your proposal?
So what I think I will say is that again, what Ritesh had said, not too much, not too little. So it should be top of everything.
Yeah.
So like I have been in the review panel where I have seen the proposal. It's like too many things are highlighted. So your entire proposal should not be in the highlight, right? So, and if you are putting too many things highlighted, every words and every bits of it in the highlighted text, then you will lose the essence that you want, right? Why do you want to highlight it? So it's up to the, like, I don't think any reviewer, I have been in a few reviewer panel, I have asked, so like color, either box, I have seen proposals like they use different way of doing highlighting that, even the bold, italic, either box or color. So these things you can use and it can be, but definitely not, I will not suggest the vibrant colors like red, definitely some lighter tones, but because that makes it easier for the reader and when they are reading the proposal. But definitely that helps a lot. So definitely everyone should use either box, color, or bold, italic, but not too much. So you have to find out like the appropriate text which you want to highlight.
On
Yeah.
the topic of color, I would also say that it's applicable for plots in papers or in
Yeah.
proposals. Just don't choose RGB colors because they are the simplest to use. They are
Not go with the default one. Like even like I have seen people are using, and I was reviewing the. So why I'm giving the example, sometimes we learn from the worst, right? So we should not do this. So there is a lot different way of doing good, but we should not do this. So recently I have sent one slide in our group and said, okay, this is the slide, and you should not prepare this slides like this. It was for my juniors. So
Uh, yeah, I before moving further, I forgot to highlight one point that we may not succeed in the very first attempts when we are submitting a proposal. We may face failures. So we should not be disheartened when we are facing a rejection in certain proposal or any position. Because as much as we learn from our success or succeeding in proposal or in getting a position, we learn much more when we are failing. We realize our limitations, our weaknesses, and we get an idea on what all things we can improve on in the future and be a better researcher.
no, I am
True.
the recent example of that, I will say. Ritesh has not mentioned but I have in the recent proposal, I got 8 out of 9, but still it has not been funded. So that is because of the 3 different reasons that they have pointed out. One of the reason is the fund, available fund. And another reason could be I'm getting 8 or someone is getting 8.1 or 8.05, and they have limitation of like selecting only 4 or 5 from the top. So I will not be. But still, I have got some good comments there. And one of the comment was like what Ritesh has pointed out earlier, the redundancy. I have mentioned very small things. I will be using one of the existing method from these. And that has been highlighted in the proposal. Like you have to be specific. Okay, I am going to use this method, not like one of these methods. I'll be using this data format, not one of these data format. So even these small things matters. So this is the point, like, and it highlight the point, like, even if it is a good proposal, you may not get funded. So failure is inevitable. So like
Yep.
you will get it.
Yeah.
So that don't be disheartened by that. And it's a learning process. You will use those whatever things you have learned in the next proposal that you will be writing.
Okay, so as we are about the mark of 1 hour, so I would kindly request you to give kind of one tagline that you think is the most important according to you for the research proposal. So maybe we'll start with the speaker. Ritesh, what would be your concluding remark for writing any proposal, postdoc proposal, PhD proposal, funding proposal?
As I highlighted even in my talk, not too much, but not too little. That has to be the highlight in the proposal.
Okay, okay, great. Randeep, what about you?
I think the clarity has to be there.
Okay, okay. Vibhuti?
Yes, I will suggest like not think like you are the reader of the proposal. Think as a third person who is reading the proposal.
Okay, okay. So maybe I will add one that make sure that you are making someone else read your proposal seriously and take the feedbacks. I think that's an integral process in anywhere, like for postdoc funding or PhD. Some third person's inputs are really required. Okay, so it was a great session. Thank you guys for joining. And once again, let's thank our speaker for really enlightening us about this NASA Roses steps. And with this, I would like to end this new episode of this Indus seminar. And very soon, we'll have our next speaker who's probably in front of us. So we'll be seeing you soon with the same series episodes. So thank you for joining, everyone. Thank you.